To our live coverage this evening from coast to coast. Special shout out to those at the International Space Station Research and Development Conference. For those who are out there, it is thanks to you and your contributions towards science and the relationships that have been built at that conference to bring science on this mission and future missions. Looking forward to all of the collaborations that are made this year for some of the science that we can see in the future. Thanks for joining us. Again, the time of liftoff is 8:31 p.m. and 14 seconds Eastern Time. Everything on track, still tracking a 20% probability of violation. That's 80% go. Weather looks good, and the range looks good for a launch this evening. That's 8:31 p.m. Eastern Time is the opening of a 5-minute launch window. We're launching this in August 2023, approaching the 10th anniversary of Cygnus 1, or Cygnus Orb D1, the demonstration flight of Cygnus, and the first time that Cygnus berthed with the International Space Station. That spacecraft was named after NASA astronaut George David Low. This spacecraft, CRS-19, is named the SS Laurel Clark. Northrop Grumman is proud to name the NG-19 spacecraft in remembrance and celebration of the NASA astronaut. It is a company tradition to do so. Dr. Clark was an accomplished undersea medical officer and naval flight surgeon prior to her NASA career. During her first and only space flight, CST-107, Dr. Clark and the rest of the crew aboard the Space Shuttle Columbia tragically lost their lives on February 1st, 2003, when the shuttle did not survive re-entry into Earth's atmosphere. Dr. Laurel Clark is remembered by the teams that are supporting this mission from coast to coast. There are 3 operations centers that are watching over the mission today here in Mission Control Houston. The International Space Station Flight Control Room, the destination of the Cygnus, once it separates from the Antares vehicle off of Pad 0A and makes its journey into orbit. We're watching and following along every step of the way. And of course, at the bottom of the screen there, you can see the 2 control centers that are looking after the vehicle you see on the pad at the Wallops Range Control Center. They're watching over the launch of Antares from Pad 0A over at the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport. And then, of course, Northrop Grumman's Mission Operations Center in Dulles, Virginia, once Antares delivers Cygnus and the 8,200 pounds of cargo, including science and supplies, into orbit. It's a 9-minute ascent that Antares will take Cygnus into orbit. It'll be the folks you see there on the bottom left taking control of the vehicle through the flight to the International Space Station.
And then enabling our ME1, ME2, TBC, and EHA buses. All agencies currently reporting green.
You're looking at the Antares rocket. On top of that is the Cygnus vehicle, CRS-19, delivering 8,200 pounds of cargo. Fueling is wrapping up here. By the time we get to T0, it will be completely filled. You can see the LOX venting happening on the side of the vehicle right now. That's the oxidizer. Antares uses RP1 kerosene propellant and the liquid oxygen oxidizer on the first stage. The second stage is a solid rocket motor.
MES
So that venting is part of the fueling process, and we'll continue to see that venting, the billowing of the cloudy smoke there on the side of the vehicle throughout the duration of the countdown to T0. Again, we're going down to 8:31 p.m. We're watching all of this from the International Space Station Flight Control Room. You can see it on the center of our screen. We're following along every step of the way, and we will continue to do so throughout the flight of Antares and the flight of Cygnus to the International Space Station. For launch, the teams here in the International Space Station Flight Control Room are led by Flight Director Marcos Flores. During the Orbit 3 shift, Marcos has the responsibility of the International Space Station and overseeing all the operations on board while the crew is in a sleep period. No Capcom today. If the crew needs anything during their sleep period, it'll be Marcos answering the call. The visiting vehicle officer is Ray Bijanes. It is his job here in Mission Control Houston to communicate with the teams that you saw earlier in Dulles, Virginia, the Northrop Grumman teams, and be working with them every step of the way to make sure Cygnus is making its incremental steps to rendezvous with the International Space Station for an on-time launch today. We're looking at a Friday morning rendezvous and berthing to the International Space Station. Ray will be watching the operations here for this leg of the trip.
LC Prop 2 in work.
Now, currently in a sleep period, though they may be waking up. It's midnight GMT aboard the International Space Station, but they could be tuning into this coverage. It is their sleep period, though, so they may be getting some well-deserved rest for the operations to capture and berth the Cygnus to the space station on Friday. From left to right, we have Frank Rubio, NASA astronaut, Dmitry Petelin of Roscosmos, Sultan Al-Nayati of the United Arab Emirates. We have Woody Hoberg there in the center frame, NASA astronaut. Right to his right is NASA astronaut Steve Bowen. Andrei Fedyaev is the Roscosmos cosmonaut to the right of Steve Bowen. And then rounding out the crew, the International Space Station's commander, Sergei Prokopyev. All 7 are on board the International Space Station right now, taken to the space station by a Crew Dragon and a Soyuz vehicle. Of this crew, it will be Woody Hoberg and Frank Rubio to perform the capturing operations for Cygnus on Friday.
Check 388, 389, and site control, step 391 to go to ARMTEL for rapid retract.
And in work, I'll report back in approximately 10 minutes when it's complete.
Copy that, site control.
LC Ops 1 TVC and EHA buses enabled.
Roger, Ops 1, check 390.
Here you can see a graphic of the Cygnus spacecraft and the Antares launch vehicle in its stacked configuration. Again, Antares is a 2-stage rocket. It's got the liquid oxygen oxidizer and RP-1 kerosene fueled on the first stage. Second stage is a solid rocket motor, and of course Cygnus will be following along. The deployment of those ultraflex solar arrays happens about 2.5 hours after its insertion into orbit. Those will collect the power it needs to fuel its service module for the remainder of its flight to the International Space Station.
We need another minute or two. We need another minute or two.
Okay, copy that.
Cygnus has a late loading operations capability for the Antares 230 Plus. The top of the fairing has a pop-top fairing to allow late loading in this specialized facility here during the phase where the vehicle is horizontal. That pop-top fairing allows for any late loading capabilities. We did get word that the part of the late load was some frozen treats. That we tried to poke at what kind of frozen treats, whether it was ice cream or popsicles for the crew. It is a secret for the crew, so that was part of the late loading operations.
Ops 2 set stage 1 controller EPV VREFs.
LC Ops 2, stage 1 controller EPV VREFs has been set.
Copy that. And system, you go for step 399, coordinate final adjustment to payload ECS temp send point, report back when complete.
LC in work.
LC system, countdown 1.
Go ahead, system.
Yeah, LC step 399 complete.
Copy, 399 complete. Launch team, we've just passed L-minus 20 minutes and counting.
Okay, you're hearing the countdown net over at Wallops Island from the Wallops Range Control Center, going through the methodic milestones. We're 20 minutes away from launch. Everything's looking good as the vehicle transitions to internal power. While we wait and continue to flow through these milestones, we do have a special guest on the line with us to talk us through some of the things that are happening. First, we have Christina Halona, Antares Systems Engineering Program Manager at Northrop Grumman. Christina, do we have you?
Hi, Gary. Yes, you do have me. Thank you. I'm excited to be here, and many thanks to everyone joining us today to see a successful Antares launch and Cygnus mission to the International Space Station.
Thanks for joining us, Christina. It's been a bit to get this vehicle in its position that we see now. Can you take us through what it took to get Antares into this vertical position, specifically the rollout?
Sure. This is Northrop Grumman's 19th mission, as you had stated before, and it definitely takes the entire Northrop Grumman team from Chandler, Arizona, and Dulles, Virginia, months and months to get the Antares 230 Plus vehicle ready for launch. It definitely starts with the vehicle being manufactured there at the Horizontal Integration Facility, which we call the HIF, at Wallops Flight Facility, and then we roll out the Antares rocket to the Pad 0A. It's definitely a rain or shine event. Thankfully, this week we rolled out Antares to Pad 0A, and where we have several engineers, about 20-ish, 30-ish people from various disciplines, and they all walk with the vehicle from the HIF to the pad. It takes the entire team are looking while they're walking out with the rocket. They're making sure that Antares stays level the entire way. We have a requirement where we have to stay within a 1 degree side-to-side requirement the entire rollout, and the whole process takes about 2 hours for Antares to make the trip from the HIF to the pad. And that's all due to the slow pace of the vehicle taking the vehicle on the truck, and we go a staggering 2 miles per hour. So as you can tell, it's 2 miles per hour is pretty slow. So, but we want to make sure we get it to the pad safely, and once it's there, we undergo some more testing on the vehicle, and then it's eventually loaded and then prepped for launch.
And it certainly did look like a beautiful day. You got really lucky with the rollout there. Awesome to see some of that footage. You know, this is not the first time you've done this, as you mentioned. It's been a while. You're coming up on 10 years since Cygnus's demo mission to the ISS, and more than 10 years since Antares' maiden flight on April 21st, 2013. When you look back at all that's been accomplished over these 10 years, what sticks out to you? You have 16 successful flights. You've been upgrading the Antares incrementally over these years. What really sticks out to you as you reflect on these past 10 years?
The one thing that Northrop Grumman is very happy to share is that Antares has carried approximately 130,000 pounds of cargo to the International Space Station, and our Cygnus spacecrafts in total have hauled away about 91,000 pounds of waste. So, like you said, over the years we have expanded the capabilities of Antares and Cygnus to increase our cargo capabilities. We perform late loads. We also offer reboost services and perform various secondary missions as well. So here at Northrop Grumman, we definitely understand the importance that the resupply missions are not only to NASA, but their astronauts and the critical research that we've done aboard the ISS. You know, there's been so much, advances of technology that have come from their research in space, and we're definitely honored to be a part of it and excited for all the missions to come, and this one for today, for sure.
Very good, and we're hearing some of the milestones in the background. The countdown is continuing. Cygnus's transition to launch mode. We're getting ready to send CRS-19 to the International Space Station, named the SS Laurel Clark. I wonder if this Cygnus, this vehicle, this mission, and the name have any personal significance to you, something that you tie very closely to this specific mission.
Hi, Gary. Yes, actually, I was an undergraduate student at Arizona State University when Dr. Laura Clark was picked to be an astronaut. And, you know, being a Navajo woman and studying aerospace engineering, along with countless other STEM, you know, women around the world who were wanting to pursue their engineering degrees, it was, you know, it was Laurel. You know, she was an astronaut. She was a medical doctor, a U.S. Navy captain, a space shuttle mission specialist, and the thing that was very special to me is that she was also a fellow astronaut Group 16 classmate of one of my mentors, who is a retired astronaut, Dr. John Harrington of the Chickasaw Nation, who was the first Native American in space. So she really had a tight bond with her entire class, and just knowing that cousin really stuck out to me. And you know, it's her incredible accomplished career and passion for the research in space that helped me cement my work in the aerospace industry. And, you know, it's been 20 years since Columbia's space shuttle tragedy, and where Laurel and 6 others of the astronauts lost their lives. And, you know, it's just been amazing to witness Dr. Clark's career achievements that took her career to under the sea and to the stars, basically. And, you know, she and the entire Columbia crew of the STS-107 continue to inspire, you know, future generations of explorers. And Northrop Grumman is proud to commemorate our NG-19 Cygnus spacecraft, the SS Laura Clark, for the NG-19 mission, where she has made a substantial contribution to the United States commercial space program and to human space flight. So we're very honored to have it named after her, and just a very special place in my heart for her and the entire crew of the STS-107.
And I think that special place is shared amongst the teams that are supporting this mission. Christina Helona, thank you so much for joining us for the launch show, and we're continuing down towards the T0 here at 8:31. Thank you for coming on, Christina.
Of course, thank you.
And as mentioned, as we were talking with Christina, the milestones for counting this mission down to T0 have been moving along.
Okay, Launch Team LC, we're coming up on our poll to proceed with final countdown. This is step 414. GSO?
GSO is go.
RSO?
RSO's go.
TD?
TD's go.
Prop lead?
Prop lead's go.
Stage 1.
Stage 1 is go.
MES1?
MES1 is go.
GCE?
GCE is go.
ACE?
ACE is go.
Mars?
Mars is go.
CMD?
CMD go.
LD?
LD is go.
NG?
Northrop Grumman is proud to honor accomplished NASA astronaut, medical doctor, U.S. Navy captain, and Space Shuttle mission specialist Dr. Laurel Clark. Laurel was a passionate contributor to the space program, improving our understanding of spaceflight effects on the human body. Her crew's successful completion of 80 experiments on the STS-107 mission advanced the bioscience knowledge of plant growth in space. A proud and dedicated wife and mother, Laurel spent most of her free time during the mission conversing with her family. But when she did get time to look out, she described it as glorious. It is therefore an honor to return her legacy to space to once again enjoy the view as the SS Laurel Clark and Northrop Grumman are go for launch.
Copy that. We are go to proceed with final countdown. Check step 414. Godspeed, Patrick James.
And with that, we pass the 10-minute go, no-go poll for CRS-19 to lift off on time this evening.
Hey, all stations,
and engine evacuation started.
Pitch and back as. Check your headsets and mics. You might have a hot mic.
And the engine evacuation started.
Copy that, Ops 2. CMDLC, countdown 1.
So in the final 10 minutes of this countdown, we'll be following along through the milestones to get Antares prepared for launch. Some of the ones coming up to listen out for in particular at T-minus 5, Antares switches to internal power. Cygnus at this time is switched to its launch mode. T-minus 3 minutes 30 seconds is an auto-sequence handoff to terminal count. Computers, at this point, will take over for the final steps through launch. And at T-minus 40 seconds, the tanks are pressurized for engine ignition at T0. We're tracking down to 8:31 and 14 seconds p.m. Eastern Time.
LC, MES1, vacuum verified in the fuel circuits.
Okay, MES1, I copy that. We'll check 416 complete.
Live shots of the liquid rocket engines that will mix RP-1 kerosene and liquid oxygen.
Go to enable ACS VDMs.
LC Alps 1, ACS VDMs, internal power on.
LC Elect 1, ACS VDMs enabled, voltage nominal, ODM commands are clear.
Copy, Elect 1. We can check step 417 and 418.
A little bit about what to expect for Antares ascent. It's a two-stage rocket, so the liquid oxygen or the liquid propellant will burn on the first stage for approximately 3 minutes 18 seconds until main engine cutoff, and then enter into a coast stage with first stage separation about 3 minutes 24 seconds and fairing separation at 3 minutes 54 seconds. There's an interstage separation, and then the stage 2 ignition after 4 minutes. And this stage 2 is a solid rocket motor that burns for 2 minutes and 44 seconds. After another coast period, the spacecraft will separate from the second stage shortly after 9 minutes to insert Cygnus into orbit.
Admin copy.